It's spooky season.
What?
It's spooky season.
It's spooky season?
It's spooky season.
She ran that by me one time. I did not know it was going to be like that.
No problem.
Yes, it is spooky season, y'all.
Spooky season.
Spooky. And yeah, we love whenever the leaves start falling off the trees. And
Which is, we've had them all.
Yeah, they're
round.
everywhere like year round.
They're burning.
Yeah. But it's spooky season. We are at the end of September, start of October.
Sweater specifically.
I'm wearing this beanie she made as well.
It's 1,000,000 degrees outside.
It's 1,000,000 degrees in my head right now. It's if you ever want some. This looks badass.
I look like a little leopard, but
you look like a leopard, but you look like
cheetah.
I mean, I like how like spacious it is.
Yeah.
You look like you're about to slap some hose. I don't know.
Are you saying this is like a pimp jacket?
Kind of, yeah. It looks like a pimp jacket.
Wow.
You gotta watch out.
I'm a pimp now. Hey guys, this is Nerd Escape,
the comic book podcast,
where we talk about everything underrated and overlooked.
I'm your host, Jablar.
And I'm your host, Cammy.
And we have a featured episode for you.
Yes.
And this featured episode goes along with spooky season. It's the first of many spooky books that we hope to bring up to you.
Spooky.
Camille has said she's going to work.
Spooky.
Cammy has said she's going to work on a list of spooky books.
Spooky.
You can tell she loves spooky season.
Spooky.
And the comic book we're featuring on this episode is...
Guess what it is?
The Boom Studio feature. I'm not stupid. The Boom Studio comic book feature. Something is killing the children.
Something's killing the children.
Something is killing the children.
We don't like it.
What do you think this comic book's about? It's about something killing the children. Yeah. And if something's killing,
it would be really interesting.
It's just like it's a fantasy Peter Pan book. But if that title doesn't explain, just the horror spooky season aspect, something in this comic book is killing the children.
Something.
Before we dive into that, let's give credit where credit's due.
Guess what, y'all?
What's the tidbits?
We're gonna talk about the creators. Sorry, I didn't mean to point my fingers at you like that.
Spooky.
We are in spooky season. We've got our writer, James Tynion IV.
He's cool.
Do you know him personally?
I know his works.
Okay, well, he's based out of Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn!
And he is also a New York Times bestseller for his Batman, I think, versus the Mutant Ninja Turtles trilogy.
What the fuck? I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Cool. Good on you, James.
Yeah. He's also a writer and producer, director for TV shows. I think predominantly Batman versus the Batman and Ninja Turtles movies. I looked him up on IMDb. Saw a couple of things. I was like, that's dope.
Not the Mesh movie, but I guess the separate ones.
Probably.
Okay.
Some of his other works include, I know that he is a co-creator of Wind, WYND.
Heard of it.
Memetic, and The Woods.
The Woods.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because I think The Woods is...
That's a good one. I've heard of it.
I think they're kids.
They're kids. They go in the woods and shit happens.
Probably another spooky one.
Yeah.
And then he's also done Razor Blades, The Closet, and The Department of Truth.
Department of Truth. That's amazing. I read all the single issues. And also The Nice House on the Lake. That's another scary one.
Is it The Nice House on the Lake, or is it The Ninth House? I thought it was The Ninth.
It might be The Ninth House. It's called The Nice House on the Lake.
Okay.
And it's post-apocalyptic, pretty scary, psychological.
All right.
The dude's a madman.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, when I was doing the research on him, he is just doing it all. He's doing it all. And so you can find him on IG at James the Fourth, and that is FOURTH. Do not do it the number 4.
James the Fourth.
It is James the Fourth. All right. Now we've got our artist. His name is Werther Dell'edera. He's an Italian artist. If the name doesn't sound Italian to you, get your ears checked.
Dell'edera.
He's worked for DC Vertigo. He's worked for Image. He's worked for IDW, Dynamite, Workhorse. But he's really predominantly really, really well known in Italy for a lot of his works. Oh, nice. But a couple of things that he's worked on a comic book called Dylan Dog, and then he's also worked on The Crow, Memento Mori.
Okay.
He was also nominated. So Something is Killing the Children was nominated for an Eisner Award, and Werther was also nominated for an Eisner Award specifically for his artistry. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So a lot of it was just saying he's really, really big, really, really famous in Italy,
huge in Italy.
Top tier.
Nice.
People love him out there. You can find him on IG and Twitter at Werther's Cut.
Werther's Cut.
Yep, Werther's Cut. So WERTHERSCUT. Werther's Cut.
Okay.
Boom, babes.
I also read somewhere that Something is Killing the Children was the top selling comic book in 2021. The top one.
Yeah, and they came out with two volumes.
Yeah. They're on. We read 1 through 3. I think you said 4 just came out, correct?
Yeah, so 4 just came out it came out in January, I think.
Okay.
But it came out this year.
Okay,
so.
I think I saw the single issues around issue 26.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be 5 volumes. If the 5th volume isn't out yet, it should be soon. And there also is a spinoff called The House of Slaughter.
Yes.
And The House of Slaughter is this we'll get into it. It's this kind of organization that's in the comic book.
Yep.
But yeah, James Tynion
the fourth.
The Department of James Tynion IV. Department of Truth is amazing. Nice House on Lake is amazing. That's the ones that I've read. I'm sure The Wind is really good.
Yeah.
Great writer. Honestly, it's one of my favorite parts of the whole thing.
Really, really good.
Yeah, I'll get into the story of Something is Killing the Children. Because that's spooky. Did we mention that? In a little town in Wisconsin called Archer's Peak. In this small, sleepy town, the children start to go missing, with most never returning. For the few that do return, they are found with their bodies dismembered and eviscerated. Yeah, not a pretty sight. It's. I'll say this comic book does not let up on the eviscerations, and it has blood and guts and torn apart bodies.
Lots of trigger warnings.
Trigger warnings on that. Yes. And so it starts off with this kid, this middle schooler named James, and all his friends die, and there's a mystery around it because you're like, okay, all these kids are dying, and he's the only survivor, so he gets interrogated, but what's killing the children, and it gets into it right away, so it's not a big spoiler, is a 20-foot crab-like feet shadow monster. Mm-hmm. So imagine this 20-foot black monster with these glowing red eyes, and it has a mouth, and it's just eating all your friends, tearing them apart piece by piece, and you're there just screaming your head off. But the thing is, with this monster, the adults, they can't see it. And so, yeah, this monster is basically going around this small town killing the children. And some of them go missing, some of them are found, body parts everywhere. And introduces one of the main characters, a stranger to this town named Erica Slaughter. She arrives, and AKA they call her Green Eyes sometimes because she has these bright, big, gold green eyes. But she's a monster killer, to say the least. She interacts and investigates the small town, and she tries to stop the monster's spread before it's too late, and there's just monsters everywhere killing all these kids. And so that's the gist of it. There's basically, she shows up to the small towns, and that's her job. I think it starts off with her at a small town, kind of cleaning up, and she's like, all right, we finished it. And then she gets a phone call. That's a terrible ring.
Wow.
And then she's like, all right, go to this small town. There's, been some missing kids. And it kind of throws off that, noir, thriller small town vibe where it's like there's a murder going on, serial killer, and kids are missing, and then
a good old murderous mystery.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and then she still shows up, and she's working for an organization called the House of Slaughter. And we'll dive into that when we talk about characters. We're just going to bounce the characters back and forth. There's James. He's the middle schooler. He has glasses. He has like brushy long hair. He survived, in a situation with the monster, and the monster killed all his friends in a massacre. He looks like the Arthur. He looks like James Tynion. And
he does.
James Tynion, actually, in The Nice House on the Lake, he draws a character that looks like him. And now I think about it, in Department of Truth, there's a character that has glasses as well, but he has blonde hair. So he kind of changes it up. But I feel like the main character, when he writes, he makes him look like him, which is cool.
Or have traits,
traits like him. And, James is kind of like the nerdy kid. He has friends and everything, and he goes through a lot. He goes through a lot in the story. Erica Slaughter, she is fit. Like, she has a fit physique, I'll say. She wields large knives, sometimes chainsaws. She has white hair, she has big green eyes, and she's a monster killer. But she has a lot of weight on her shoulders, in my opinion. She genuinely cares about the people, and she travels from town to town killing these monsters. And the thing that she has to like fight with, the opposite of that doesn't have that caring like characteristic, is the House of Slaughter, the monster killing underground organization, or as Cammy would say,
a cult.
Yeah, she's like, this is a cult.
Yeah.
They do kill monsters. That's like their whole main thing. But they will kill innocent people if those innocent people seem like loose ends. And what do you think of all those characters? What do you think of like James?
James is a sweet baby angel.
Yes,
he deserved better, but yeah.
That's no indication if he lives or dies.
But
he went through a lot.
James
is very strong though. He goes through it. Like, he gets a moment where he's like crying with like sarcasm.
He's a kid.
He's a kid, so he's just like, really, you want to use me for this? Okay, like, let's do it. I'm here for it. What do you think of Erica?
She's chill. She's doing what she's got to do. And she's taking it upon herself to do the right thing, and I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and there's just so many badass scenes of her just dual wielding and just going at monsters. Like, they did a really good job with the action on that part.
Yeah.
The House of Slaughter.
Are you asking me what I think about the House of Slaughter? They can go fuck themselves.
They're protecting the greater good, Cammy. You gotta take care of loose ends sometimes.
Well, then you have a morality issue right there. Because you can't save people and kill people in the same breath.
Well put. That's what a cult. And I forgot to bring up
it's really
this.
Interesting.
Tommy, I'll just mention that character. He works at the local Apple Beams. You heard me right, Apple Beams.
I thought it was Apple Beans.
Apple Beans, there you go.
It was like, that stood out to me predominantly.
So, there's like home deposit, there's like different stores in the thing that will get the copyrights. But his sister was one of the children that went missing. He takes care of his estranged mother, who's at home just waiting for the daughter to come back, and she might be dead, she might be alive. But he has conflicts with Erica Slaughter because she comes into town, she's hanging out with James, and James was just found, covered in blood with all these dead kids. So some people think James is the one who killed him. And then so Tommy, kind of bullheaded, kind of jock-looking guy, goes after Erica and tries to citizen arrest her, or even tries to kill her. But then he has like a turnaround where he finally realizes what's really going on, and it's not Erica who's killing the children, it is the monster. And he's an interesting character as well. She doesn't like Tommy.
Tommy can eat dirt.
He probably does. He eats a lot of, he eats blood and dirt. I don't know. He's gone through it. The whole town's gone through it, okay?
He put himself in that position to go through it, so I don't want to hear it.
But that's the gist of it. You have a very small town story. Kind of I want to say Stranger Things. I don't know if that's... Compare
it to Stranger Things.
What would you compare this to?
I don't... I think it's really just a murder mystery, like a small town murder mystery. I think it's really, really good. Kind of reminds me like of the beginning of the X-Files movie. Like the kids fall into that hole.
Oh yeah.
And then Scully and Mulder come into town to try to figure it out.
Huh. Never thought of it that way. Nice.
Kids, murder mysteries.
It's good. That genre of just like thriller, murder mystery,
supernatural,
horror. I will say once again, this is not let up. Like you see kids getting like
it's intense,
eviscerated, torn in half.
Please take care of yourself when you read this.
Yes, it's very scary from that interest. So if you're looking for a scary, and honestly, it's visceral, but the artwork like they don't go too overboard. The subject is overboard when you're like taking a kid and like the kid's getting eaten and torn in half. But the artwork, I think it's like, I don't want to use the word bland, but the artwork is
subtle.
It's subtle. They subtly pull it off, and like it's not so in your face. You're more just like, whoa, that happened. But it's not like there's like a blood splatter on the comic books like thing. It's
I'd have to say it's like very subtle. It's not very subtle. It's subtle enough, but it's very moody. So it definitely.
I was trying to look for the right words for the art. It's moody.
It's moody.
But it uses like, I don't want to say like, is pastel colors bright? Like
no,
like that's what I'd say. Like it uses like kind of like pastel colors. So
pastel colors are bright, but they're like baby pink, baby blue.
Okay, never mind.
So
that's wrong.
They're just I don't know. They're dull colors.
It's very cool colors.
Yes, cool tone colors for sure.
So it's a very cool tone comic book throughout the whole thing, and I guess that adds to like the like darkness of it all. You know, I was thinking of the word noir. Would you describe this as maybe a horror noir?
I cannot say which because I really don't know the definition of noir.
I'm gonna use it. I feel like it has a horror noir feel because noir is more like solving a criminal case, and this is kind of like that, but with like a murdering monster that they're trying to stop. Because there's a lot of like you're in an interrogation.
But I mean, that's
room.
what a murder mystery is. It's like a supernatural murder mystery. But it's
a really cool. It's kind of like that. I never thought about it. It's a kind of a badass like more detailed X-Files episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you like X-Files. You'll definitely like this. It's we're gonna go to one of our classic segments, the simple, but sometimes simple is perfect Q&A about this comic book from me and Cammy back and forth. And I'll ask Cammy this: what was your favorite thing about Something Is Killing the Children?
Probably the mood. The mood. So the setting. I think the plot was really, really good. Storyline was really, really good because. Again, you don't get storylines like murder mystery kids very often in comic books. So it was really nice seeing that. And then it was just really good for like setting that moodiness of getting into spooky season. So I was like, because I've been in the mood to really read more horror and scary thriller novels and stuff like that, so this was really, really nice to kind of set the tone. And it was like, I hate to describe horror as light, but this was a very like light horror to kind of like ease me into,
which is crazy,
reading
because
more spooky books.
I would say the artist the biggest pull off is pulling off like children getting killed by a monster. And it's not like you don't, like, it's just like grabs the kid and goes off into the panel and kills the kid over there. Like, they killed the kids.
That's right on scene.
Yeah. Like, and it gets pretty, it's visceral. And that's part of what I liked about the story a lot. I enjoyed the story, like the small town horror thriller. So the writing was amazing. Mm-hmm. I'll say this. We hardly complain about anything on this podcast because we usually do comic book appreciations. But here's your, I don't want to call it a warning, but just a critique and a tip for readers when you're reading this. The paneling, and I'll show it on the video. The paneling, sometimes they don't read it. They read left to right, but they don't read it like one page is all left. You got to like pan to the right side. And there is some times where you're reading it and then you read down and you're confused, like what the hell? And then it's like, oh, the top panel panned over to the right side of the page. and they do that here and there in it, and sometimes it because Cammie was reading it and she was like, what the heck? And I was like, oh yeah, I remember the paneling was really weird sometimes.
Yeah, I don't really like.
You got to like watch for
like
the other panel on the far right side to be on the left page, and then it like goes over there. But sometimes like the crease in the page, like you can hardly see it.
Yeah.
So when you you get used to it by like the second volume, but the first time you read it, you're gonna be like, what the heck? Like I'm off. Like, and it kind of throws you off the story. It really does. That's our one critique, and I'm pretty sure they heard it like, because I've never really noticed something where I was like, I love this comic book, but it has this one thing about it.
Yeah.
So that's the one little hit on that. But the story is amazing. And like I said, they don't beat around the bush with the monster eviscerating children, and even adults get it too. And so this is also going to be a Netflix show.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to come out this October, but was it Mike Flanagan who's producing it?
The infamous Mike Flanagan. The infamous Mike Flanagan.
You should reverse yourself.
I think so.
Mike Flanagan does the Haunted House,
the Haunting of Hill House. He does the Bly Manor. He did the, what was that vampire movie?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. He does all the Netflix horror like originals, and they're good.
His wife is in each one of them.
Oh,
you know that one movie I showed you? She's deaf.
Yes.
And she lives alone in the woods. So that's his wife.
Okay.
And I think she made that movie and like co-created it with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm when I saw Mike Flanagan was producing, I was like, hell yeah, because my favorite part of this was, the first scene you're with James and his friends, and they're like kind of doing truth or dare and telling scary stories to each other. The next scene, James is in the interrogation room, and it's like very moody with like the blue colors, and like we said, it's like the mood is like dark. There's like a shade over it, and then all of a sudden, like after the cops investigating him and interrogating him, the very next like turn over the page, it's Erica Slaughter holding her swole arms, holding two blades covered in blood, and like looking at a little girl who she's helping destroy these monsters. And then like it kind of like I can already see how the TV show is going to be like, bloop, scene here, and then it's going to like cut to the next scene, and then you're going to just watch. Mark our words. I have a feeling it's going to be, if it doesn't come out this year, it's probably going to come out next October, I'd assume, because they love to come around this time.
Probably.
Usually drop stuff around October time.
It just came out though, like
the announcement.
Well, the
comic book.
The comic book itself.
It was like 2020.
So you would need a year to I don't know. 2
so
years.
I feel like it's going to be probably the hit show on Netflix. They're like, oh my god, it's based on a comic book, and I'm like, yeah, it's great. I don't want to be the guys like, this is Reddit for the first time ever. It's our story. But it's going to be a Netflix show, and that's my favorite part is the story and the setting and just like how they work together to make that a perfect scene. I can feel like it could already be a really good TV show. And there's also great comic relief written in there, even in such a dark story. That's really good. Favorite character, Cammie?
I didn't have one.
And it goes to say, I always say you never have a favorite character, and you're like, I have favorite characters.
I don't have a favorite character for this one because I
Erica
felt
Slaughter,
like it was
nothing.
No. I thought the story. I really liked the plot. I really didn't too much care for any of the characters. Wow. Sorry. Did you like characters?
I wrote Erica Slaughter is amazing. Like, I feel like Erica Slaughter could become an iconic comic book character, in my opinion, for Boom Studios, because Boom Studio really doesn't have that iconic character. And like I said, this is the best-selling comic book period in 2021. And I feel like when this show comes out, like it'll be that very strong figure. But my favorite character is the whole town folk. I like the town. A lot of them go through.
That's not a character.
Yes, it is. A lot of them go through some shit. They really go. The monster eating their children. The House of Slaughter coming them, and like they're like the town at one point is like all together, and then the House of Slaughter is kind of like basically threatening them. And when loose ends got to be cut, Tommy's mom, she's estranged. She's going through it. There's the sheriff. The deputy goes through some stuff. The principal of the school, he's well written. I just think there's all these like small side characters. Like they have dialogue with the main characters, and I always think they're just like even there's small moments that you're talking with these characters, like you feel like they're real. They have some roots already.
Yeah, I think
like,
all the
they did a good job of giving the character roots without even really giving them roots.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you on there. Like all the characters were well written. They had substance to them.
They did.
I just didn't have a favorite.
And Tommy, he's bullheaded. He goes through ups and downs. And even Tommy's like coworker, she adds some like
he has a good arc.
She's a side character, and and he has a good arc. All right. And last question. Do you believe in monsters? Like, for example, the monsters when a kid comes out of his room and says, "There's a monster in my closet."
Sure. Yeah.
You believe it's real?
Yeah.
You don't think it's just their imagination?
Nope.
So do you feel imagination can create a monster? Or is that kid really seeing something that's really there, but we're just old and we can't really see it?
I think kids can see more than what we can because we have, we are desensitized to a lot of things. So we don't see as much as kids do. Kids are they've got simple minds, very simple. So straightforward to them. For us, it's different. We have blocks of morality. We have blocks of this and that, and, opinions, whatever. So yeah, I think kids can see more. I think people can create their internal monsters. So that can become problems for them physically. So that's my thoughts on that.
Core beliefs in that, which I love because you make comic book and so monsters are real. Hopefully not these ones.
Yeah, hopefully not this one.
Maybe this is happening in small towns all over the place. Maybe this is a journalistic account.
Maybe.
But look out for Something's Killing the Children. Look out for Erica Slaughter, the badass. I want to get the House of Slaughter. Actually, sorry, I missed to say that Something is Killing the Children was not the top selling comic book in 2021. It was the House of Slaughter. So the spinoff, and it's pretty cool. Whenever they kill monsters, they have bandanas they put over their face, and the bandanas have little teeth on them. That's about it. It's spooky season, y'all. Can you give us one of your infamous spooky seasons?
It's spooky season.
Huh?
It's spooky season.
It's spooky season. It's spooky season, y'all. So this is our first recommend on that. Something is Killing the Children. Written by James Tynion IV. Illustrated by Werther Dell'edera. And colored by Miquel Muerto. Boy, his name is Death. Okay. And then colors.
And World
Design. A letter by And World Design. Okay, that was a person too.
I was like, whoa.
But hell yeah, it's
a good
such a good comic book, and it's one of the it's our generation, 2020. So it's a new comic book on the shelves, so you can actually read it, catch up, and keep up with this. There's not something that has not like Spawn. I think Spawn I saw is on number 333 issue. But hell yeah, thank y'all for listening once again. Appreciate y'all for listening on YouTube. Subscribe, give us a like, leave a comment. Any other platforms, leave us a review, please. It helps us out a lot. Follow us on Instagram at nerd_escape.
Yes.
We post. You can communicate with us if you like. We like to collaborate. But yeah, until then, this has been Nerd Escape,
the comic book podcast,
where we talk about everything underrated and overlooked.
I'm your host, Cammy.
And I'm your host, Jablar.
Read a book.
It's spooky season.
Spooky season.
Says all.
Spooky season.
It's spooky.